Welcome. On The Living Legends tonight, we speak to a man who had a legal career all set for him. As fortune would have it, he took an uncharted path in publicity after parting ways with his employer. Last year, he was honored by motorsports world governing body, the FIA, for organizing Africa's premier car beauty pageant, the Concoursd'Elegance. We hear from 2021 FIA Heritage Award winner, Bob Dewar. Bob Dewar, it's an extreme privilege and honor to have you here with us on The Living Legends. Welcome.
I'm very happy to be here, Moez. I've been looking forward to this all week, ever since there was a call to say, would you like to come and be interviewed? So the answer was delighted.
And we've been looking forward to this interview as well. You're such an amazing personality, and I think tonight people will get to know much more about you. So, being honored by the FIA, what was your first reaction to the message and invitation from Paris? Was it shock or was it satisfaction that you're finally being appreciated for all your hard work for the past 50 years?
Well, I've been appreciated all along by the...
But at international level?
Yes, yes. The FIA Heritage Cup is awarded to submissions, to selecting a submission from motorsport organizations around the world, the equivalent of our KMSF. Mm-hmm. And KMSF did me the honor of putting my name forward for the award. I was asked just to produce a short resume about the Concours, mm-hmm. and to produce a 1-minute news clip. That was done, and KMSF sent in our bid, and I rather thought, oh, well, that's done. I wonder if there's any hope. And I was pleasantly surprised, bowled over, when the message came back, just a very one-line message to begin with from FIA. FIA has awarded Bob Dewar and the Concoursd'Elegance, submitted by KMSF, as the winner of the Founders Member Heritage Cup. So it's presented every year for the best contribution to the classic and vintage car movement.
That's extreme pride and honor for us Kenyans as well, and specifically for you.
It is indeed a boost for Kenya. This is the first time the award has gone to an African country. So that pleased me more than anything else.
Oh, that's awesome, and it's commendable. It's fantastic. Great. So, there's a pretty good feel factor right now, isn't it, for you?
Indeed, indeed.
I can see the smile, the glorious smile.
Yeah.
Well, all that passion has reaped fruits. You think this would be the icing on the cake that you were looking for all these years?
Well,
a kind of an appreciation at international level?
I'll tell you what I think most of it now is, hopefully it will lead us to getting a sponsor for this year's event, which is scheduled for September the 25th at the Nairobi Racecourse. Because once a year, horses give way to horsepower, mm-hmm. at the Nairobi Racecourse.
Right. And I think advertisers would be inspired by its international recognition, I'm sure.
I sincerely hope so.
It will. It'll happen.
Yes.
Okay. You're born and brought up in Kenya.
Correct.
Die-hard Kenyan.
Correct.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, your early life and education.
Very well. It started at Kilimani Primary School. Mm-hmm. Then I progressed to the Nairobi Primary School. Then the next step in the passage to education was the Prince of Wales School, now known as the Nairobi School.
Yes.
I achieved quite good results in the higher certificate of education, mm-hmm. and I was very fortunate to gain a place at Oxford University.
Right.
And my parents sacrificed a lot to keep me there. Halfway through the law course, I realized that the law and Bob Dewar didn't really suit each other.
You almost quit, huh?
Not really, because I would never have let down my parents.
That's honorable.
I continued, and I earned my degree, but I did realize that about 50% of the undergraduates who studied law did not go into practicing law. It was a passport to a good job. And the good job came along in London with Caltex, and they needed a graduate trainee for Kenya. As a graduate trainee, I moved around all the departments. When I came to the PR department, I clicked. This is what I want to do. They had a reorganization. They asked me what I would like to do. They offered me various transfers, including one to Vietnam, and I thought, oh, that's not actually for me. I love this country, so I am staying. So I said, presumably, PR will now go out to contract because you're reducing the size of your organization. And they said, yes. So I said, okay, pay me out, give me the contract, and that's where the PR agency started.
So that was in 1969?
Correct.
When you formed Bob Dewar Publicity?
Yes. There I was with one contract, Caltex. Those were the pioneering days for PR in Kenya.
Right.
It was quite a new thing, but it soon became fashionable. And having started a one-man show in the corner of an advertising agency owned by friends of mine with my portable typewriter, and I would type releases out and walk around the town to deliver to the Nation and the Standard and so on. Gradually I acquired other clients and the reputation grew, and I started taking on staff and obtained my own office space. But that time of walking around the town to deliver news releases just taught me that office messengers and clerks have their difficulties, and they do a vital job in the link. I've always appreciated the messenger grades, the clerical grades, for what they do.
Let's go to your passion. And your passion was Concoursd'Elegance.
Indeed.
You're one of the founding members. Okay, tell us about how this idea was conceived and the first event.
50 years ago, I was the PR agent for the Alfa Romeo dealer. And I linked with Alfa Romeo in Italy and Britain to talk about clubs and do they benefit the dealer. And they said most certainly they do. They help to maintain the price and the attractiveness of a brand. So my client agreed that we should try to form an Alfa Romeo owners club. And he liked the idea because he just sold his 100th Alfa.
Okay.
So he said, look, I'll lay on a little party at the Norfolk Hotel on the terrace, and we'll invite all the owners and potential owners and just mingle and talk and see if there's a bit of a reaction. There was an amazing reaction. It was quite spontaneous, and immediately there was a temporary committee ready to submit to the Registrar of Societies to form the Alfa Romeo Owners Club. When it came to the first anniversary approaching, we thought of how are we going to celebrate the first anniversary. I'd heard of the big Concoursd'Elegance in Pebble Beach, California, and we held the first Concoursd'Elegance limited to Alfa Romeo owners and Alfa Romeo cars. It was quite amazing. It had a magic of its own. It developed. And everybody said, "Hey, Bob, can we have 2 of these in a year?" And I said, "Hang on, there's a bit of work behind this."
Let's take it easy.
Annual event. So it was an annual event for a few years, just for Alfa Romeo owners only. Then we became a bit more ambitious, and when the club was 10 years old, we opened it to all makes and types of cars, pickups, station wagons, and so on. Initially, we used to meet in the grounds of a hotel, the Spread Eagle Hotel, which is now where the Safari Park is. Then we moved it to what was the Embakasi Racing Circuit, opposite the Firestone Tyre Factory.
Right.
And that was going to be a big recreational area, and the perimeter road was to be a race track. And that's where we had the first open Concoursd'Elegance. Peter Hughes, the late Peter Hughes, Safari Rally winner, and he was in charge of motorsport. We invited him, because he was a personality, to be the chief judge. And he said, "Bob, I like it. We must show motorsport enthusiasts, rally drivers as responsible. They don't just smash up their cars tearing round East Africa in the safari and other rallies. They look after them. They are should be an example to the ordinary motorist. Let's do it. But you won't get a very big entry, Bob. You'll be about 15, maybe 20 cars." Well, we got 25 and a lot of interest. When are you going to hold the next one? It gradually grew. We ended up getting about 1,000 spectators at each event at Embakasi. Then the status of that land was changed from recreation to commercial. So we went to the Jockey Club of Kenya, and they clicked, they liked it, they wanted another income earner to add to what they were getting from horse racing, which was flourishing in those days.
Yeah, at that point in time.
Yeah.
So when you moved to the Gong Racecourse, well, I mean, what was the impact of change in venue, and how did it change the planning of the event?
The very first time we moved to the racecourse, we got 3,000 spectators. Wow. We got many more entries, and this inspired other people to say, "This is good. I'm going to prepare a car for next year." And I'll tell you what had to go to another level and didn't. The catering collapsed. The beer ran out at about 12 o'clock. The food ran out. And they love the racecourse. You see, it's a stately sort of place. It's got nice shade trees, facilities. Yeah. The grandstand is marvelous. So we've been there ever since. That's 33 years ago.
33 years. And now, I'd like to ask you, the Concours is an FIM Africa recognized and sanctioned event. What does this mean for it? Okay,
FIM is the motorcycle equivalent of FIA.
Okay.
Yeah. FIA is the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile, and FIMA is the Fédération Internationale de Motocyclisme for bikes.
Oh, I see.
Yes. And they have the Africa organization in Johannesburg, and they came with the South African competitors and monitored the event, and then they recognized and sanctioned it from 2006, and that goes on the worldwide international motorcycle calendar.
Now, this beautiful trophy.
I'll tell you what it is. It was donated by one of our Alpha Club founder members for the highest placed Alfa Romeo in the Concours. which is not necessarily the winner. We haven't had an Alfa Romeo winning the Concours for quite a number of years.
Right.
But the highest placed Alfa Romeo is almost always in the top 10.
What should Kenyans know about the ecosystem around the Concours for high budget to low budget entrants?
Restoring a car for the Alfa is not entirely about money. Money comes into it as in all forms of motorsport.
Right.
But mainly it's hard work, painstaking, being passionate, and having prepared to spend quite a long time. Some of the cars that have been restored for the Concours have taken 3-4 years, not full-time 24-hour work, but in between earning a living and taking the family out and getting home in the evening and setting aside 2 or 3 hours to do something.
A good mix, business and pleasure.
Yeah.
From the heart, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Passion. Final question. What is the future of this event?
Well, I've been at it for 50 years.
Do you see another 100 years?
A little. I see the Concours going on for 100 years, but 2 or 3 years ago, I was both Alfa Romeo Owners Club chairman and event director, Concoursd'Elegance. I wanted to devote more time to the Concours. I needed to devote more time to the PR agency, because preparing for the Concours was beginning to eat into that valuable time. So Peter Wandai was elected chairman of the Alfa Romeo Owners Club, having been the vice chairman.
Right.
And that split the load. And he's also been heavily involved in the Concours. And again, I think he will answer that question, because he will be my successor.